I'm Lee Rennick, Executive Director of CIO Communities for CIO, and I'm thrilled to be here at the CIO Symposium and 100 with Brian Weiss, CIO of 6sense. Brian, thanks so much for joining us today, and congratulations on your CIO 100 award-winning project.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm
Yeah.
happy to be honored by the CIO 100. It's a great honor.
Well, it's great to have you here today. So 6sense has put together a really great project. I read through, actually, I was one of the judges, so I happened to read through some of those applications. And it's an award-winning project called Automation Domination. So could you tell me a little bit about it?
Yeah, one of the things that I usually come in as a CIO for some pre-IPO companies. And
Okay.
most of the time when you come into an environment like that,
Yep.
there's a lot of fast growth.
Right.
And there's a lot of situations where sort of your business processes are not really as mature as they should be. And because of speed, maybe you're doing things that are maybe manual in sort of nature, and you got to start maturing. And you
Right.
want those end-to-end processes to be as efficient as possible. So Automation Domination is a program we put in place to really change the way that the company is thinking about how efficient automation of their processes and sort of not accepting the status quo.
Right.
And so the idea behind it was we made it a top level company objective, and the key result was to save 67,000 manual people hours.
Incredible.
And the way we came up with that was we took our employee base, we have about 1,200 employees, and we said, what if we could save 1 hour per week per employee for the entire year? So that's the rough math of why 67,000 hours became the goal.
Yeah.
And the real meta deliverable, though, that was the key result to track, but the real meta deliverable was to change the culture and the way people think about what they're doing. It was also to create an environment where people also thought about what they do and how it affects other groups, so in turn breaks down silos.
Yeah.
And really just make it so that it becomes ingrained into our environment. And then for me as a CIO, I know there's going to be process improvement, efficiencies, ultimately speed that helps our customers in the end. So
Yeah.
we really did focus a lot on the sales and marketing as a sort of because that's what we do.
Yeah.
And it was just a great experience, and it was so successful that we are doing it again. And so our next goal is to save 100,000 hours. I should have said we actually saved over 91,000 hours for our original goal. Our next goal is 100,000, and I've already told the team I think they sandbagged a little bit, and we need to actually increase that. So
Wow.
it's a pretty awesome experience, and now it's sort of changed the entire culture. And I don't have to really cheerlead it anymore. You just hear
Right.
our team members, our employees talking about it all the time.
Yeah, because I'm sure they're able to report back on productivity they've
Yeah.
achieved through their business, through this opportunity of really automation, domination, and all of that stuff. So that's really cool, and that's really important, right? And that idea of internal productivity, which is really enhancing your
Yes.
customer experiences too, which is great. So I want to talk to you about that a little bit. I speak to a lot of CIOs about data and cloud, and some have moved on. Like during COVID, a lot of people put their data in the cloud, and then they were looking at costs around that of processing data, and some are now saying, well, I'm now thinking of bringing it back down on-prem because I want to keep my most important data
Yes,
right
yes.
on-prem or maybe on the edge of the cloud.
Yeah.
So I've talked to a lot of people about this today, so I would love to learn more about your approach to that around data and cloud.
It's really interesting too to think about what is the cloud going forward. So when you think about truly like on-prem, physically
Yeah.
on-prem,
Yeah,
those would be data centers. And the world has changed a little bit that your data center is your cloud provider going forward, and
Right.
you can control that. So it is really interesting sort of change in landscape. And then a company like 6sense, we're a digitally native company.
right,
So our company never had anything on.
right, exactly.
It's always been in the cloud.
Yep.
I do think makes it faster because you can deploy products much faster. You don't have all the capital intensive infrastructure you need to buy. But it does require a certain mindset of like controlling costs.
Right.
Because of that ease of use into that computational sort of resources, you can get carried away. It also brings up interesting questions around, well, where is my data exactly?
Yes.
Right? And so there's like data sovereignty.
Yes.
Where is it going? And so while it is simple to go to the cloud, it adds other complexity that you have to consider going forward. I do think that most of the world will now be just digitally native. We've already seen that in tech companies. There are some exceptions depending on the industry you're in potentially.
Yeah.
But then there's going to be situations in the future where if you get large enough, you will start to say, where's the cost benefit of the analysis on that? And you might want to bring some of it back on-prem. We're a long ways from that, but I do know some of the larger Fortune 500 companies are definitely thinking about, because their complexity of data residency is even more than something like 6sense, true cost in the cloud versus doing it yourself, maybe more control. It's a really dynamic sort of topic that I think is going to evolve over time as we all push to the cloud and now potentially, in some cases, pushing back from the cloud.
Yeah.
And so I think you're really going to get this hybrid approach. And I know some of the big players in the space, computer players, manufacturers, they're thinking more and more about this too. I think it's also, one last thing I'll just say, it's interesting, is that most of the skill sets now are really around, have shifted to cloud first. Most of the products that are being built to sort of augment how you handle cloud services are cloud first.
Yeah.
So the big challenge coming next, it used to be, it was like, how do I address pushing to the cloud and will all the things work? And now you're gonna have to say, all right, I gotta push back. And so skill sets.
Right, well, true.
It's like, it's really interesting to think about that shift potentially back. 6sense isn't gonna worry about this for a long time, but I do think there's gonna have to be this sort of common plane of how you manage all of that going forward.
Okay, and so this is interesting. I'm actually going to be hosting a panel on ESG tomorrow around, we talk a lot about the cost of cloud data, edge to cloud computing and things like that. And obviously how generative AI has been, on top of all of that, right?
Yeah.
As one CIO said to me, garbage in, garbage out. If you don't have the right data in, then you're not going to be producing the best stuff going out. And so he was referring to generative AI and like, if my data's not in good shape, then I'm not even going to overlay it onto my system until I get that right.
Yeah.
Which you were just talking about. So what are you seeing in the area of like enterprise innovation with AI right now? What are you experiencing? Just what are you hearing out there?
Yeah. Well, first of all, 6sense is a big AI engine at the end of the day, right? So one of the things we do is we provide B2B intelligence for marketers and sellers to understand where their either existing customer base or future accounts are in their buying journey. That's what we do. And the way we do that is a big AI engine at the end of the day, right? But to your point around, I think on the generative AI side and where things are going, it used to be a situation where you didn't have enough data, and now we have tons of data, so that tons of data makes quality paramount, right? I think managing those data sets, getting a lot of utility out of them in insights, and of course the quality of that data is just going to be paramount, especially in this generative AI space where LLMs are going to be the new paradigm shift. And there's many other ways to take this, but really understanding your data in a real actionable way. Yeah. So I think that the quality piece is only going to it's going to be exacerbated. It's something that you have to get done. Yeah. And I think we really have got to figure out a way to ensure that we talk about hallucinations, we talk about maybe there's going to be situations where you might get report back from that data that's not correct. Yep. And the hallucination piece could be very real and some really bad outcomes. So there's going to have to be a real mindset on making sure that data is high fidelity. I guess the one thing I'll say though too is that it's really interesting thing about LLMs and hallucinations. It's really forcing us as a world to make sure that data is going to be of high fidelity. Yeah. So we're all gonna have to focus in on that, and that garbage in, garbage out statement is totally true. I think it was true before, Now it's really true.
More, yeah,
More
I
so
agree.
than ever, you know?
Yeah, I agree. And in the discussions I've been having today, it's like we've all been talking about data, just the quality of data that we have so that we can really ensure that the business can move forward, right? At the acceleration that Gen AI is, putting in
Taking
that
us.
space, right? And
Yeah.
taking us, right? We can't even start talking about quantum yet, but anyway, we'll leave that to the next interview. But the last question I wanted to ask you was around leadership. So we produced the State of the CIO report.
Yeah.
We had 1,100 CIOs, contribute to that globally, and 79% of those CIOs said that the CIO now has an educational partnership with the board of directors and the C-suite and the CEO. So I would just love I've been talking about that a
Yeah.
lot today. It really does seem to be that's what most people are telling me. They really have that connection and partnership, and it's an educational piece. What's your experience?
My experience right now as being a CIO today has never been more sort of powerful and energizing. I think a lot of CIOs over the last few decades have really wanted to be taken more seriously, a larger presence in the boardroom.
Right.
And with all the technology shift that's going on and the commoditization of a lot of technology, it's allowing CIOs, I know there's exceptions to the rules of all this stuff, but so I'm speaking in sort of generalization, but
Yeah.
it's allowing CIOs more freedom to really influence the company more than ever. And that heavy burden of infrastructure or run the business that was consuming 80% of your resources, say 10 years ago, that's all changed. It's the whole paradigm is changed to have, is it 20% run the business? I think it depends on individual company or whatnot, but it certainly has swung the other way. I think the other thing that's really interesting is because technology is becoming commoditized in many ways,
Right.
you can partner with the business even more effectively because they have a point of view. They're more tech savvy. They can take on more of, I would say, sort of the grunt work that CIOs and big business technology teams had to do. And I'll just bring it back to automation domination. The very fact that we can lower the technical barrier for a lot of these services and enable the business to do a lot of the heavy lifting,
Yeah.
because they know their process is better than really a business technology group can.
Yeah.
It just accelerates everything and changes the whole engagement. And it's a pretty awesome time to be a CIO now. And then the amount of sort of asks that come of CIOs, especially with generative AI, point of view, what is your strategy? How are you going to really help our bottom line?
Yeah.
Those sort of conversations have just increased exponentially, and it's a great time to be a CIO, and I continue to see that being an area that's going to mature in all organizations across every industry.
Well, I appreciate your insights on that, and I appreciate interviewing you. I learned so much from these interviews myself, so thank you so much for joining us here, sharing automation domination, what 6 Sense is doing, and just your role as a CIO. I appreciate it so much. Thanks again.
Lee, thank you so much for sort of recognizing us, and it's been a great event, and I can't wait to come back.
Thank you.